Public Works Committee. Dan English and I are here, and I'm calling this meeting to order on January 11th at noon. We have two items on the agenda today, both with Melissa Tosi, our Human Resources Director. And the first item is approval of Personnel Rule Amendment number 27, FLSA exempt employees. Melissa, welcome.
Yes, thank you. So the proposed amendment today is adding our accountant classification from an hourly unrepresented employee and transitioning that position based on its duties over to our FLSA exempt employee list. So currently, as I mentioned, she is an hourly employee that receives comp time and overtime. We took a look at the position and the duties and requirements of the responsibilities of the position and looked at, does this position fall under a true FLSA exempt position? And based on the salary range and the discretion of the independent judgment and the significance of what the accountant position does, she does meet all the qualifications under the administrative rule of the FLSA exempt employee list. So we are proposing to move this position into Rule 27. And so that would make the position a true salaried employee, exempt employee. And there's no significant financial change. The position is leveled accurately and appropriately for the job duties assigned to it. The main change with going into Rule 27 is that annual increases are based on performance, and it's a range from 5 to 8%, where right now as an unrepresented employee, hourly employee, it's just a flat 5%, and that there's no range to it. So that would be the only significance with the possible increases. And then the employee also would no longer be eligible for overtime and comp time. So some of that expense would offset.
On the salary, I think I read in there that if we move somebody from the hourly and overtime basis to this basis, on the annual basis, yeah, they fall into a different range. But it also, I think it said that the one time, so that then they have to do at least a 10% bump in their current salary. Did I understand that right? Or?
No, a lot of times when we are changing a position, we might be re-leveling the position as well into a different pay grade. But the duties of this position, I confirmed with our company that we use for Ameriben HR Consulting that we use to help with our pay grade leveling, and they confirmed that it is being paid appropriately. It's in the correct pay grade. Okay. So the position would not receive an increase to go to salary. She would just be eligible for that range of performance when her evaluation comes up. Yeah.
And I just have one question. What triggers the attention to this? Is it a change in job responsibilities, maybe a change in supervisor, just an annual overview of positions?
That's a great question. I think part of this position had to do with COVID. So we have a lot of employees that are teleworking. So we have some staff that are in the building and some staff are home. So our comptroller, Vonnie Jensen, if she's not in the office, who is directly the person that staff needs to go to for day-to-day direction of duties and responsibilities? So we recognized through the last few months, and this position has been receiving a higher amount of comp time just based on her taking over a lot of the COVID functions. So there was kind of a combination of things that made us look at this position, and our comptroller, Vonnie, she had actually brought this up probably a year or so ago. So as we work through this year, it was obvious that this position really is a true salaried position.
Thank you. It makes sense to me, so I appreciate the overview and catching it.
And yeah, I think it makes sense. I do, I'll just kind of, for the record, anytime we're looking at moving somebody from salaried with comp time and overtime to exempt, I take a hard look, kind of a second look, because, over the years, variety of experience, but at least in a lot of cases, the experience is, well, they do that in order more to benefit the organization,
Sure.
frankly, because I think bottom line is, if we can just pay them a flat salary instead of overtime and comp time. Now, in theory, the trade-off is, well, then they don't have to be here all the time. But then there's some unwritten, there's unwritten expectations that if somebody exercises that too much, then that's kind of an issue. So I do take an extra look. On the other hand, when I look at our entire structure, and we don't have a lot that fall into this category, and we do take care of our folks, I think at all levels very fairly, including with this, and and especially too, if I understand right, that they, do assume, in this sense, kind of a chief deputy role, where if the main person is gone, then they fill in, which sometimes, probably means some signature authority and other things. So I think this one appropriately fits in, and I'm glad to see, we take care of the person, and it's for the right motive. So.
Yeah.
I'm good.
And just to address the salary piece of it, the FLSA requirement is that the position has to be making $35,568 at a minimum to be a salary position, which was increased per federal law in the last year or so. This position, the minimum is just over $57,000. So the city really, and that is our lowest pay grade that has a salaried position in it. We have other salary positions at a pay grade 14, but we're about $22,000 above the minimum for the federal law. So we have always been very cautious about getting too low in that salary schedule, because we do have other positions that if we really took a good look at, we probably could move to salaried, but we try to be the very obvious ones.
Well, given that, I'd be happy to make the motion.
All right.
Okay. I would make a motion to recommend that council approve an amendment to Personnel Rule number 27, FLSA exempt employees.
And I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The second item on our agenda is approval of updated coronavirus, the COVID-19 policy. And Melissa is here to present to us again.
Thank you. So last April, we had a policy that we put together that detailed a lot of the COVID precautions and pay pieces around that, and that kind of fell under the mayor's emergency declaration at that time. There was a lot going on, but we felt like we needed to put together a policy to be able to provide to employees, so they saw some of the things that the city wanted to make sure employees knew as far as hygiene and how we were going to pay people and that sort of thing. So that policy expired along with the federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act federal law on December 31st. So this proposed policy that we're bringing forward today has much of the same information on it. The biggest part in here that has been updated, besides just preventing the spread and the precautions and stuff, is Section 7, the paid leave options. So the Families First Coronavirus Response Act that was passed last year basically required employers to provide employees with up to 80 hours of emergency paid sick leave. So we have been providing that to all of our employees throughout 2020. So that expired December 31st. But the consolidated, the new act, what was that called? Just escaped me. the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021 is voluntarily allowing employees to continue that same paid leave act. So we've met, and obviously we're kind of in the thick of the virus still, and we feel that it's important to make sure employees are taken care of and that they're staying home when they're sick, or if they are positive or seeking treatment, that they still have a way to receive some sort of paid sick leave during the time. So the city would like to extend that paid benefit through the extension of that act, which is March 31st of 2021. And we have been providing administrative leave for police and fire obviously they provide a high safety risk of exposure if, they're positive and coming to work. So we're just kind of continuing the way that we've been paying since last April through March 31st. And as the vaccine kind of rolls out and as the next few months, I think we'll be telling, we can revisit this policy, we can extend it, we can amend it. We didn't want it to go too far out. We just wanted to make sure employees knew that we were taking care of them, and that there would still be a COVID-related benefit through the end of that federal law.
Well, I think, yeah, this something we need to do, and so I don't think it's not a matter of if to do this, but I think the timeline in particular makes sense. From all of the national discussions, I think it's very reasonable to believe there will be more assistance at different levels, and a lot of the emphasis has been on aid to local governments and entities. So I think there is very likely it'll be more help. It may take some different forms and things. So before this runs out, certainly we'll know where we're at. But for now, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I agree with you. I full-heartedly support this, and working to support our city team and their families and encourage them to stay home if they're exhibiting any of the COVID symptoms and get healthy and help reduce the spread as our numbers continue to rise. So I appreciate all your work on this.
Thank you.
So given that, I would make a motion to recommend that council approve the updated coronavirus COVID-19 policy.
Second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
And our broad audience.